everyone. I am Damian Holbrook from TV Guide Magazine and TV Insider, and you are watching the Pennyworth panel at New York Comic Con. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Look at this. This is so cool. These guys are coming in from London, which is, the upside of this whole pandemic is that we can actually get the casts that wouldn't normally have been available to come to New York for Comic Con. So you guys are here. So let's introduce our panel right now. We've got Bruno Heller, the executive producer and creator. Jack Bannon, who plays Alfred Pennyworth, Paloma Faith, who plays Sykes, and Ben Aldridge, who plays Thomas Wayne. So how are you guys doing now? How's it going now that you're back up in production?
It's great just to be back at work. I'm sure everyone in the world feels like that. It doesn't matter what job you're doing, as long as you're doing a job. I'm very happy to be back, at least for myself. How about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. It's brilliant. The studios here, we're at Leavesden Studios in London, or just outside London in Watford, Warner Brothers Studios. They've done a fantastic job. Everyone sort of feels safe and well and happy and healthy. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Nice. So you guys had an incredible first season. I think it blew a lot of people's minds because, yes, it's based in the Batman world. It is from DC Comics, but it is the furthest thing from a superhero show. It is the furthest thing from anything that we've seen as far as anything with comic roots. And it was funny and sexy and violent as hell. And stylish. It was so much fun. Bruno, what did you learn from season one that you saw and you're like, all right, we got to keep this in season two and maybe let's tweak this going forward?
The main thing I learned was that my my love for obscure Cockney slang is an overrated expression. And it doesn't need that to be authentic. What else did I learn? Look, the best thing about getting onto a season two is the kind of troop aspect of getting a cast together, and everyone, it genuinely becomes a kind of a family, and you can write to people, and you find the fun aspects of it, and work towards them. It's the payoff for getting a season one right is season two, where you really feel like you're doing it the way it should be done.
And that's one of my favorite things about shows going into their second season is it really does. This is where the show starts to expand its universe. You start to see, like you said, the writers writing to the actors who maybe you didn't think this combination would help or that would work out. Did this shutdown kind of give you guys a chance to even like recalibrate going forward into the rest of the season to say like, oh, you know what, we can even do this now?
I guess that's a producerial question for me. Yes and no. It allowed us to work on the scripts very, fully and properly, which is in TV is a great luxury. But on the other hand, we getting back up again. It's really about finding a way of working within the protocols that makes sense, that makes for a better show. On the one hand, you can't have big crowds, but on the other hand, you can really work intensely with actors on specific scenes. It's much more like doing, for me, it feels much more like doing a stage play, not in terms of the spectacle that we'll end up offering, but in terms of the way you can work with people, because sets are far more focused, intense, less busy and crowded, and it's much more about the actors.
And so
I love
our
it.
three actors here had so many great intimate scenes, one-on-one scenes, like things that were like really smart. I mean, Jack had that amazing scene in the finale with Alfred's father at the dinner table with the drinks and Paloma. I point to the fight sequence between Paloma and Polly Walker as like, this is how you do a female fight scene, because it's also like so rooted in sibling rivalry and brutal. And Ben, all of your scenes with Emma, especially as we got closer to the end, they just like, we had that almost that Hepburn and Tracy thing forming. Where do we pick up in season 2? Where because everyone was in a pretty dire situation.
Yeah. You go, Bruno.
Well, no, I'll just say it's a year later. We come back a year later, and many things have changed. Lord Harwood escaped from the Tower of London and pulled off a coup, and England is now at war, essentially. It's much more your good guys versus bad guys. It's very clear who the good guys are now, and they are under siege in London.
Oh, wow. So because we kind of dodged that bullet in the finale, and now we're back in the shit.
Civil War.
Nice. And Thomas obviously survives because
he survives. Yeah, he survives, and he is asked to come back as CIA station chief to London. So he goes and recovers back in America, and then so we begin episode 1 with him kind of being given that responsibility, which is a bit of a poison chalice, I think, for him. And and with him and Martha, it continues to be that kind of the relationship you were talking about. Those scenes are definitely there, and I love doing those as well. We always get given like 4 or 5 pages, and it's like doing a little mini play with them always. So it's good fun.
And then Jack, it's mentioned in the finale, which after all the stuff that went down, he's been offered a job in Scotland Yard. Is that something that we see him heading into?
No, actually. I think, he's dealing, he's just killed his dad, which is huge, and the world as he knows it, the London that he knows and loves is kind of falling apart around him, and England is really a kind of awful place, as Bruno said, with very polarized, good and evil, and militarized forces and all of this sort of thing. So his intention in season 2, at the beginning of season 2, his main intention is to get some money together and go to America, and leave the city where Esme died and the city where he killed his father, and kind of move on and make a fresh start there.
So how is he doing after the events of the finale? Because there's, Esme, his father, even, Dave Boy getting stabbed. Like, he's surrounded by a lot of violence around people that he cares about. Yeah.
For a man that said, I don't like doing violence, he ends up in quite a lot of violent situations, because ultimately that's what he's good at. He gets drawn back into these things. But I would say he's not doing very well. I think the minute he steps on screen, or the minute I read him stepping into the first scene of season 2, I was in the script. I was very aware that this is a different Alfred. It's difficult as an actor, because you get the benefit of, when you're going in season 2, of, like Bruno was saying, looking at what worked and what didn't, and moving that forward. And one of the great things about Alfred was his sort of the twinkle in his eye and his cheeky chappy kind of thing. And this season, that sort of, it's still there because it's who he is, but it's put on the back burner. He's dealing with so much stuff that the minute there's a explosive scene when we first meet him in season 2, which kind of mirrors one of the first scenes in season 1, but his reaction to what's going on is completely different. He's much tougher. I think I've said before, I felt he went from almost a boy to a man in season 1, and this picks up, where it left off, really, albeit a year on.
And how's his mom doing? Because she was so delightful.
Yeah, she's doing all right, I would say, remarkably, given the circumstances, but she's certainly not doing as well as she was. And actually, it's a good opportunity. The house is in a bit of disarray, and it's a nice opportunity for Alfred to maybe start honing some butler skills, because he has to help with the washing and things like that. So that's coming in slightly. Look out for that.
Nice. Okay. All right. And the last we saw Bet, she was in prison with her sister and Lord Harwood. And what does this do for her? Like, where is she now that the world has kind of split? And it felt like Bet was maybe toying with the idea of maybe not being a complete villain.
Bet, that was just me, not Bet, by the way. That was toying with the idea. Bet's been, her loyalty has been rewarded by Lord Harwood, and she's the sort of person who gets carried away in the uniform. So she gets given the uniform, she feels quite important. It's a subtle difference, but I felt it as soon as I put the uniform on. I was like, now I'm in business. And there's something strange that it does to your psychology as a person. In fact, we have a lot of it going on in the studios, having to deal with the COVID inspectors. As soon as you give someone like something to wear that symbolises their job, they become very different. And I feel like Bet loves wearing her uniform, and she owns it. And she has, like, yes, some more personal storyline interwoven in this season. So she's kind of exploring. We explore a bit more about who she is as a person, what she wants. But in the sort of exterior sense, she's on a power trip. Yeah. And I think that when she starts to realise that maybe you need more than a uniform to have any power, she starts getting irritated. So there's like some suggestion of there's some suggestion of her sort of questioning whether she really respects anyone she works for, because do they even respect her?
Right.
So
I can't imagine her working well with others. You know, like I can't.
Lovely. Stop
it. And Thomas, so Ben, yeah. Well, I can't wait to see her kind of like bully people, because I can't imagine what she's like as a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the news out of DC fandom that Martha Kane is getting pregnant. So clearly a lot has changed in the year between seasons, because the first time these two tried to even make it work, Thomas ended up being shot and laughed at. So where are they as a couple now? Like, is this still, like, have they committed to this, or are they still like doing the dance?
Well, he comes back. I think I can say this, that he comes back into episode 1 engaged. Yeah, to someone else. So that's a massive curveball. Kind of a curveball for both of them. I think he didn't really expect that either. But that's where they start off, and then it kind of all unfolds from there. And there's still a lot of tension between them in terms of he comes back as a CIA station chief, and they just have very conflicting politics in the way they go about things. So there's always, even in their pleasant moments, they are literally like they're a second away from it completely turning and them ending up in a horrible argument. Yeah. So yeah, and then yeah.
Sounds like most marriages.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's not unique in that way.
Can we reveal or talk about who this new fiance is?
The fiance is kind of a throwaway gag to the degree that he goes back to his East Coast mansion in Gotham, and his parents have found him a fiance called Miffy or Muffy, or that sort of. I can't remember what her name is actually. Ben, you might remember.
It's Betsy Van Wyck.
Betsy Van Wyck. It's very clear to us and to Martha that this is that in that area alone, Thomas Wayne is a bit of a lamb, and easily led, and he was essentially pressured into doing the conventional thing. And to that degree, what Martha offers, as much as they're in conflict all the time, what she offers him is a whole life of unconventional freedom and a kind of liberation from the constrictions of the Wayne legacy. And the fiance back in Gotham is definitely part of that old world that he kind of knows that he has to escape from at some point.
Well, I love the fact that in the relationship, Thomas is kind of the uptight one, almost neurotic. And Martha is the pot stirrer. Yeah. And Martha's definitely the pot stirrer. And to think that these two people raised like a billionaire or playboy, it makes me wonder how much influence does Alfred have on Martha and Thomas's relationship? Because there is definitely the inklings of a triangle there.
Whose baby is it? We didn't say it was Thomas's baby. No.
A lot can be done in flashbacks.
I think the three of them together make a kind of make the parent of, if there is a singular parent, a holy trinity of parents for Batman, it's that combination. It's the conflict of those two. I'm going to use this phrase. There's an Apollonian and Dionysian thing with Martha and Thomas, and Alfred is the kind of leavening that every recipe needs to make things stable. What would that be? The yeast, the gluten? I don't know.
The gluten.
He's one of those.
Yeah,
stabilizes the recipe. So you've got these two very volatile parents, both either poles of personality, and Batman is a nut case in many ways, isn't he?
So that must come from Alfred.
Yeah, where the sanity comes from Alfred.
Yeah.
What is it? So, and I was thinking about this because you've stayed so far away from kind of like any of the Bat stuff, aside from Bet sounding like Bat, and her being that crazy. But you did build in, like, you had a very Easter eggy scene middle of the season with a couple and a little boy walking through like a back alley. And I know that Danny has said technically yes, but like, can we get a definitive, is this Gotham canon? Like, does this show fit into the Gotham timeline?
The Gotham timeline, yes, it does. With a caveat that canons are not written down. They're in the minds of the larger Batman audience, and you're in the canon if people accept you into the canon. You can't simply say you're adhering to the timeline. There are any number of iterations of stories within this DC universe that have somehow not made it into the canon. The aim and the ambition for anyone working in this world is to make it into the canon, but you can't say you are. You get to join the club by popular acclamation. I hope that we will be in the canon, but in terms of the chronology, yeah.
Okay.
Two things. Don't ask me to explain it with dates
right,
and years and everything, but yeah, that's the notion. Yeah.
Because they both exist in a world where like time is different. Like we have music is different, like in the period and you had so much fun with that last season. So yeah, and Gotham had that whole like, it's timeless, but it's also, like they had flip phones in the modern times. Where do you see these relationships on our screen developing in season 2? Because I kind of love that Jack has this a very specific dynamic with both Ben and Paloma. With Ben, it's a very slowly brotherly kind of burn going on where they're like starting to respect each other. And I loved the idea of like Alfred not killing Thomas, and Thomas going like, thank you. Also, F you guys, which was such a great moment because it's kind of like Thomas kind of just manning up. And then there's this weird, almost respect between Bet and Alfred, where he knows she's bad, but he respects what she's doing. So where are they headed here?
Well, the beauty of TV series and working with great actors and having a story that goes on into a future that to a degree people already know is that we don't know. It again, it's about a second season. Is like, all right, we've got these elements together. We've got this weird dysfunctional family. Let's put them together and see what happens. In the case of Thomas and Martha, it's a baby, which is a development that neither of them expect or even particularly desire at that moment. And it's wartime, so strange bedfellows and strange alliances form up. We're going to get to a place where, the strangest people become close friends and the strangest people become enemies.
Do we get to see Thomas and Bet cross paths more? Because again, that would be an insane pairing just to see them working together on any level.
They do cross paths, yeah. But
they do.
Yeah, you could make a whole series actually, or more of a sitcom. The Odd Couple.
Because if Martha's like a Spitfire, then just imagining how Thomas would handle someone like Bet has got to be hilarious.
If Martha's a Spitfire, then Bet, Martha, and Thomas are a spit roast.
Oh!
Oh, I hope they can keep that in.
Yeah, right?
Frozen, or is he just
Thomas is in the middle.
Thomas is in the middle. And Jack, how do you describe the dynamic between both you and Ben and then with you and Paloma?
Well, I think I said last year that it was me and Ben, or Alfred and Thomas, were like two tigers circling. I think this part of what's exciting for us is, I mean, Bruno says lockdown was great because they could work on the scripts. We've seen a few more scripts, but we still haven't seen them all. So I'm not sure when those deadlines are, but it's exciting to see how the writers figure out clever ways to get these characters together. Because really, if Alfred had a choice, he wouldn't hang out with Thomas at this stage. But there's certain stuff that happens kind of 2/3 of the way through this season where they do team up a bit more. And I know there's some stuff coming with Alfred and Bet again, who just seem, as you say, to be kind of the most unlikeliest pairing and almost maybe cancel each other out, but they have this respect for each other. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But yeah, I mean, as I say, Bruno needs to email me.
We see Alfred need Thomas for the first time, I think, in this season.
Okay.
Like a little bit.
Yeah.
So that changes their dynamics. It's been very much the other way around the entire time. It's been Thomas coming to Alfred being like, can you do this? Can you do this? But for the first time, it happens the other way around. So that kind of shifts the dynamic a little bit there.
Yeah. Because that's right. Because I'm still like, we're trying to figure out like what happens to these two men that gives Alfred such a sense of loyalty to the Waynes.
Yeah. Well, I think we don't know yet, because there's still a huge amount of distrust even at this stage. When Alfred comes to Thomas, there's still very much a wariness. So, Bruno,
Martha has something to do with the jail for that, because I feel when I watch it and read the script, I feel like Martha's got a lot to do with the jail, in the sense of why would Alfred have so much to do or be honoured with so much responsibility when the baby comes. I feel like his relationship with Martha is like much more respectful and sort of on an equal level, and maybe that happens more because of that than it does because of
Thomas. And I see
also,
very...
like, sorry, from a feminist perspective, when you have a baby, like, the woman decides everything. So it's not up to the man to decide who looks after her child. It's the woman's decision.
Be nice to Martha and you might have a job, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see definite early signs of, like, early shadows of Batman Catwoman relationship in Alfred and Bet.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah.
There's definitely that, like, that he knows that she's behaving poorly. He's also has a lot of blood on his hands, just like Batman, and they do work together as a very odd couple.
Yeah. The Moggy
Okay.
and the Bat.
And also, let's face it, like, in reality, in real life, everyone prefers a little bit of danger than just bland, don't they? So
Yeah.
Alfred probably
We all want a little
likes
bet in our
the
lives.
danger.
We all want a little bet in our lives. Yeah. Okay, so
That little thing, like, will she be nice or will she stab me in the eye?
And you'll
Probably
never know
both.
until it happens.
and so all right, so you've got Lord Harwood back out, and I love how he kind of morphed into almost like a monster by the end of the season. Like, he loses his nose, he loses his leg, he's limping, he's, like, he's definitely entered a world where he's not, like, I feel like he's not fully human anymore. Is he the only threat that we're dealing with in season 2?
No. In wartime, the strangest people turn out to be the true monsters. Harwood is, indeed monstrous, but he's kind of there's a pathos to that transformation into a monster, and it's also a kind of any rise to power is also a kind of descent into madness, because it takes a certain amount of madness to, I'm not mentioning any names, to think that you have the right or the skills to take that leadership role. So as he's slowly descending into sort of megalomania, people around him take advantage, and there is a larger villain who appears to steal the throne from him.
Nice. Okay, and so you had a bunch of, like, mini historical cameos last season. Do you have any famous people that are kind of weaving into the story this year?
We have George Orwell's in there. The fairly famous Lucius Fox is in there.
Yes. And what does, because you have Simon Manianda doing this, correct?
Yeah.
And where does Lucius Fox fit into all of this?
Well, he fits in very strangely at first, because when we first meet him, he's working for the bad guys, and we will wonder where the hell his allegiances lie, or how this character can become a good guy, but we will discover.
Okay, all right. So we can announce that season 2 of Pennyworth is premiering on Sunday, December 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern on EPIX. The first 4 episodes will air weekly. You'll have your mid-season finale on January 3rd, 2021, and then your additional 6 episodes will air later in 2021. So we only have a couple more months before Pennyworth comes back to our screens. I want to congratulate all of you guys, because, again, if it's even a quarter of the excitement and fun that first season was, you're going to kill it, because it was so good. And you guys just, I love these characters. I love that people are going to grow up watching this evolution of all these characters, because these are the backstories we never got, and I love what we're getting.
Thank you. Damian. Love you too.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you, New York Comic Con.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.